the destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Cedar.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
And I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Wednesday, December 18th, 2019. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, the third impeachment in the history of our nation is hours away. As the rules are being debated on the floor of the House, we're about to enter a period of debate on the 2 articles of impeachment, which then, presumably once passed, will be sent to the Senate. And speaking of the Senate, Mitch McConnell hints that there will be barely a trial in said Senate. Wants to keep it quiet because this is such a political advantage for the Republicans that they want to keep it quiet.
Wouldn't be fair.
Wouldn't be fair to... They didn't want to rub it in. We don't want to showboat. Meanwhile, new polling, Biden and Sanders more or less tied in Iowa. But the real story is we really have no idea about what's going on in Iowa. Meanwhile, in sentencing the former Trump deputy campaign manager, Rick Gates, federal judge subtweets Bill Barr by saying the Mueller probe very much warranted. Speaking of which, why did Giuliani associate Lev Parnas get $1 million in September from a billionaire Ukrainian with reported Russian mob ties? And is that guy paying the legal defenses of all these Trump associates? Meanwhile, New York court demands that the FBI offer a proposal to fix FISA flaws by January. Here's an idea. Have Congress pass a law. And while the hidden USMCA drug giveaway has now shown up in the omnibus spending bill, among other atrocities. The Pentagon got a raise. Progressive and Hispanic caucuses opposed to its eventual passage. Meanwhile, Andrew Yang drops a new health care proposition. And when I say drops, I mean drops. And all the information you need regarding tomorrow night's debate. All this and more, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. It is Wednesday. We are nearing the end of the week, as far as I'm concerned. It sort of feels that way on Monday. We're also nearing the end of the decade, and I have come to the conclusion that it's never going to end. It's just, we're going to just keep on going like this. It's going to be a constant state of frenzy. There is definitely, it seems to me, some type of weird tension, stress that maybe the world on some level is going through, but certainly I feel it in the world of politics. I noticed that Ronald Reagan, who has a podcast called Redirect, which you should work on that, about immigration law. I noticed he tweeted out looking for positive stories from immigration lawyers so that they could end the year on a high note. And apparently, none. Didn't get any. And that could be just indicative of nobody listens to a show. But I would find that hard to believe. It's a very good show. And I would imagine immigration lawyers, a lot of them listen to it. So I think there's just that quality in the air. But we will be with you for another couple of days live, and then we'll be presenting to you our famous Best of the Year cavalcade of shows, and best of in like the YouTubes in the second half of the show, and on and on. You'll have something to enjoy as you sit around the Yuletide log or whatever that is. I don't know what that means. The Yule log, the video of the Yule log.
Friggin' Gentiles.
Who knows what happens at these celebrations? And chances are I'll jump on if there's any news on YouTube and do some live streaming. And also the AM Quickie. We haven't quite sure exactly worked out the schedule, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be going on for most of the vacation. And you can sign up for that at amquickie.com. It's a 5-minute news rundown of the week. I don't know. Maybe we'll do some type of like a different type of it too, a looser version, so we can give some of the writers a day off or two. That's something to think about, Brendan. Speaking of which, folks, do you like rock and roll? This music is catching on, and one of the places where you can see some rock and roll tonight, actually. Is at Pete's Candy Store. This is in Williamsburg, is my understanding, which is the hip part of Brooklyn, and or formerly at one point back in the day. But there's still little corners of hipness, and at Pete's Candy Store at 10 p.m. it's a free show, and you'll be able to see my band. I don't know what the name of it is. You just wrote my band. Ways and Means. Brendan's band. Ways and Means. He didn't pick the title, but it's very apropos, isn't it?
That's awesome. Or Means, Ways. Whichever one's backwards.
Ways and Means. Oh, Means and Ways. Yeah. Means and Ways. All right, fair enough.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how sick will the jams be?
They're going to be pretty sick jams, as the kids say. So check that out if you're in the area. It's Pete's Candy Store. 10 p.m., and that is tonight, and Means and Ways. You don't even know the names of his own band.
This is rock and roll, baby.
So, yesterday, the House Rules Committee had a committee debate on how the rules were going to move forward in terms of the impeachment hearings today. And then they bring these ideas to the House. It gets debated. Then they vote on it. Then once they establish the rules, they actually have debate. And there'll be 50 seconds for each member of the House to say something. It is historic. And even 50 seconds sounds like, wow, that's not very much. There's 438? 538. 438. And I can't even remember now. I have no idea. But it's going to take like 9 hours. 9 hours for the debate to happen. And then they will vote on the articles of impeachment. And then Donald Trump will be impeached. How is he responding to this? Well, he wrote a letter to ostensibly to Nancy Pelosi, but really it's one to posterity. And Mark Simone, I know Mark Simone, went on to Lou Dobbs and gave us a sense of... Wait, is this Mark Simone? No, that's not Mark Simone, is it? That's Mark Simone. Okay. Well, I'll tell you a story about Mark Simone in a moment. But Mark Simone is a longtime AM talk radio host, local, was on WABC. Maybe he's moved over to RKO. I can't remember. But he and I have over the years, have debated a little bit. Mark is a pretty glib guy. And... he, despite the fact not having necessarily the deepest relationship to history, he wants to contextualize exactly this letter that will live in posterity. Here is Mark Simone on Lou Dobbs.
The president today, in writing that 6-page letter to Pelosi, gave her an opportunity, an off-ramp, if you will, at the conclusion of that letter. And then she responds with a comment to a reporter with others present, saying it was a ridiculous letter. That's her response. And the ignorance is institutionalized amongst the party of hate now, obviously.
Yeah, everybody should go read that letter. It is a masterpiece. It is the Gettysburg Address of smear job, false accusations. What a response. It's a historical document. Schumer saying we've got to have witnesses.
Pause it for 1 second. I just want you to think about the construction of this. It is the Gettysburg Address of smear accusations. So, in other words, it would be a smear accusation that was just done very well, or one that people are going to remember for a long time, maybe. I mean, in that respect, I don't know. But let's listen. Go back and let's listen again.
Amongst the party of hate now, obviously.
Yeah, everybody should go read that letter. It is a masterpiece. It is the Gettysburg Address of smear job, false accusations. What a response. It's a historical document. Schumer saying we've got to have witnesses is his admission that they didn't make the case in those 2 weeks with those 17 witnesses.
Yeah, there you have it. And that is the new line, incidentally, from the Republicans. The idea that Schumer said, let's have witnesses. It's a trial, and the impeachment itself is an indictment, which is obviously the bar is lower for an indictment than it would be a trial. And so if people feel that there was not enough time, the Republicans were not given enough time in the context of creating the indictment, by all means, it is only just to have witnesses in the Senate. But apparently the Republicans are not so happy. But let's get back to what Mark Simone calls the Gettysburg Address of smear job thingamajiggies, or whatever he said. We don't have the whole thing for you because it's 6 pages long. But Anthony Adamaric, who used to have a show called The President Show, did us all a huge favor and read the entire thing for folks. And here is, we'll just do, what page are we on here?
This is right about towards the beginning.
Towards the beginning, when Trump writes to express his strongest and most powerful protest against the partisan impeachment crusade.
You have cheapened the importance of the very ugly, total dog, 3 at best word, impeachment. By proceeding with your invalid impeachment, you are violating your oaths of office. You are breaking your allegiance to the Constitution, and you are declaring open war on American democracy. You dare to invoke the Founding Fathers in pursuit of this election scheme, yet your spiteful actions display unfettered contempt for America's founding, and your egregious conduct threatens to destroy that which our founders fledged their flary flies to flill. Even worse than the flounding fathers, you are offending Americans of faith by continuing to say, oh, I pray for the president, when you know this statement is totally not true, unless it's negative, if it's meant in a negative sense, and that's a terrible thing that you're doing. But you will have to live with it. Not I! Your first claim, abuse of power. That would be a great name for a cool Nelson DeMille airport novel. Abuse of power is a completely disingenuous, meritless, and baseless invention of your imagination. You know that I had a totally innocent conversation with the president of Ukraine. Totally innocent. I then had a second conversation that has been misquoted, mischaracterized, and fraudulently misrepresented. Fortunately, there was a transcript of the conversation taken. And you know from the transcript, which was immediately made available, totally right away, only 35 days, 60 days, 90 days, 90-day fiancé. I wish I was watching that instead of reading this stupid letter. which was immediately made available, that paragraph in question was perfect. It was totally perfect. A total 10. I said to President Zelensky, I would like you to do us a favor, though. What did I mean? I wanted him to send me some Ukrainian pierogies, fried, not boiled, baby. Because our country has been through a lot, and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I said, do us a favor. Not me and our country. I said us. Not a campaign. I meant U.S. U.S. Not us like us. I was saying do U.S. a favor. But when I call the U.S., I call it us. I then mentioned the Attorney General of the United States. Every time I talk with a foreign leader, I put America's interests first.
Okay, there's more. And frankly,
I could listen to that all day.
I was going to say, like, this will be on a loop in my home probably for weeks. Like, this is dinner movie. And Matt, this is your dream come true, right? Just having this, you're just going to lay some tracks behind it. And
no, I mean, Trump tapes would be my dream come true.
There you go.
Actually, him on film. But it's like this part is notable because he mentions. Then I mentioned the Attorney General, but he doesn't say. Then I said get in touch with Giuliani.
Right. I didn't mention Rudy, which would be weird for you to get.
The great thing about him is that he's completely insane, but still here enough to know when to lie.
Well, Stephen Miller wrote this letter. I mean, I think that seems to be the consensus that Stephen Miller wrote this, and.
It's
probably,
like jazz. He understands my inner voice.
He gets me.
It's more my letter to the Danbury Baptists where Jefferson talked about the separation of church and state. This is, if you want to put it into historical context, Simone, that's it.
Folks, with the cold months now here, nothing sounds better than curling up next to a warm fire, sipping on a cup of hot chocolate, and cracking open an intricate homicide investigation. Cue Hunt a Killer. It's the subscription game that thrusts you and your friends and family into an ongoing murder mystery investigation. With every delivery, you sift through the piles of documents, evidence, audio recordings, case files, eliminating suspects until you solve the case, catch the killer. No wonder they have a 2,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. Look, I don't know about Trustpilot. I know about the Cedar household. And Mile and I, it's almost the only time we communicate now.
Cedar Pilot.
I'm there half the time, and then something comes up, and we have to miss a week, and we're bummed about it. But we get a new case file. I'm not going to give any of the details away. I'm not going to talk about where we are in the case, but I will say this: it is a story about basically a reunion, and something goes awry, and we got to figure out which of the reunion goers, or maybe it's not even a reunion goer, maybe it's somebody who worked at the school. We don't not gonna. Well, honestly, it is. It's super fun, and I mean, I would imagine you could play it with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your significant other, your older kids. I wouldn't play this with Saul, but with teenagers, and she loves it. She loves it, and it's I'm not saying it's educational, but it's nice to get your kid doing something that involves analytical thinking and whatnot. But it also would make a great gift. Really great gift. Now because you listen to this program, you can go to huntakiller.com, use the promo code MAJORITY. You get 20% off your first box. And they even have gift cards so you can do it for your holiday shopping. This is a winner, folks, because you're not going to get something in a day or two and have it shipped in time. You want to run out for the crowds? Forget that. huntakiller.com, promo code MAJORITY. They're throwing in exclusive bundles for the holiday season. So make sure you use the promo code MAJORITY. Go to huntakiller.com for 20% discount. Show your support for the show, but also do yourself a huge favor. It's fun. huntakiller.com, promo code MAJORITY. All right, we will, well, I don't want to say that because every time I say that, we never do. That we're going to get to calls early. So Donald Trump has written this letter to Nancy Pelosi, which will, I don't know, be in the Smithsonian. I mean, honestly, like it's the third time. I mean, like right now, everything seems just ridiculous to us. At one point, maybe 70, 80 years from now, when people can look back on this and laugh a little bit, they're going to look back on this as a piece of history. It's not going to be sort of as amusing. You know, there'll be some historians like in 70, 80 years who's just like, oh, have you guys ever seen the Trump letter? And then and everybody was sitting around, ingesting whatever it is at that time that we ingest. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Everybody will have their IV hooked up, even if, maybe we won't even have bodies at that point. It would just be orbs. But
God willing.
Talking about how funny that letter is back in history.
Oh, that's very optimistic of you, Sam.
Who knows?
I want to see the Obama letter to Boehner like that.
Well, but here's the thing. We also know, not only is this letter come off as if it's written by a lunatic, we know that Donald Trump must be losing his mind over impeachment. And how do we know? Not just his behavior, because he's been losing his mind for a while. We know because if Donald Trump could look into the future, like he had a perspective about impeachment that I think probably describes what he's experiencing to a T. Now, I can't read his mind and know this, but I can watch video of him calling in to Fox and Friends in 2014. And this is what he had to say about impeachment.
Do you think Obama seriously wants to be impeached and go through what Bill Clinton did? He would be a mess. He would be thinking about nothing but it would be a horror show for him. It would be an absolute embarrassment. It would go down on his record permanently. But they're saying, oh, he'd love to be impeached. That would be so good. And the Republicans are all saying, oh, we'd never impeach him. We'd never impeach him because he'd like that. Well, and the Republicans, and I'm a Republican, and the Republicans...
There you go.
I love that grunt he does when he's trying to sound tough.
I'm a Republican. Do we have the clip from that we'd pulled from, I guess it was like a year ago or August or something like that, where Ducey was saying if he said Biden? Do we have that?
It'll be remembered as the greatest con job ever.
I don't want to play that, but I mean, I want to play that. But that is Donald Trump, I think, to a T, expressing what he's going through. Because he had this projection of this notion of what impeachment meant. And he might be right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, personally, I think that Donald Trump was going to go down in history maybe as the worst single or two-term president that we've had. I mean, I don't think it's possible for history to look kindly upon Donald Trump's presidency. But this is the type of document that, I mean, look, there's been 2 other impeachments. Bill Clinton, after they tried to smear, I can't even remember her name now. After they tried to smear
who?
Yeah, Lewinsky.
Oh, you mean the Clintons?
Yeah, the Clintons tried to smear her when it first came out.
Lewinsky,
yeah, and say she's a lunatic, blah, blah, blah. Once it went to impeachment, he became very much sort of contrite. And there was no question as to whether one could impeach. The question was, should one?
I realized that I should go on the pedophile's plane after I conclude my work serving the American people. Yes. I apologize.
I've changed my ways. I would say he probably did not have another fare in the White House.
Counting the days.
And I think that's true. I think that's true.
Post-prezzo what?
I was on my best behavior.
Andrew Johnson was a lunatic. He could have written a letter like this, it seems to me, but he didn't. And now we have the 3rd impeachment in the history of our country, and this letter will be the central focus of when historians look back on that. They will look at this letter and say, wow, this guy was nuts.
Actually, they'll say how healthy I was.
The other concern I have is the way he's going to assuage his hurt feelings is by lashing out. Like, you can't impeach me twice. Now, you can, but I think that they probably know in the White House, like, they're not going to go back down this road again. And so, I mean, that's personally why I would like to see multiple articles of impeachment be sort of like doled out over the course of the next 6 months.
You think he's not going to do more crimes
exactly.
if he gets out of this?
Exactly. Or even if he does get out, I mean, he's going to do more crimes, period. Here is just since we heard that fallback Wednesday clip of Donald Trump calling into Fox and Friends in 2014. Here is, and this is just from like September. Here's Steve Doocy reminding everybody what it would take to legitimize impeachment.
If the president said, you know, I'll give you the money, but you got to investigate Joe Biden, that is really off the rails wrong.
Right.
But if it's something else, you know, it would be nice to know what it is. Mark Levin.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, you do know what it is now, buddy.
Right.
Off the rails.
Off the rails. Not on the rails. Not behavior that the president should be following.
You're the one who's off the rails, Steve.
Now,
I'm a Republican.
Here's the thing.
I'm paid.
The Republicans' reaction to impeachment, it seems to me, basically falls into two basic categories. One is, this is a great chance for me to burnish my bona fides as a lunatic to my constituents and either both ensure that I'm going to get reelected and no one's ever going to challenge me again in this seat, or maybe give me a future in broader Republican politics to the extent that there will be one. And here is a clip from Doug Collins in the House Rules hearing. This is the Rules Committee was setting the rules for impeachment ahead of the, and they're having a debate on the rules of impeachment. This committee is chaired by Jim McGovern, Worcester's finest. Love it. And listen to Doug Collins try and respond to a simple question as to, do you think that what Trump did, because nobody's disputing the actual facts, right? Nobody's saying, like, he never called Zelensky. He never said investigate Biden or Burisma or any of these things. And he never said, like, he never held back the money. Nobody's saying that. So the question is, like, do you think it's appropriate? Like, give me a sense of, like, where on, like, a scale of 1 to 10, how appropriate is this call? And watch Doug Collins try and answer this question.
And to explain what happened. And Mr. Collins, I'll ask you and Mr. Eskin the same question. I mean, was the president's call with President Zelensky perfect, as the president has said? And was it appropriate for him to ask another country to investigate an American citizen?
I find there was nothing, I've said this before, there's nothing wrong with the call. And then when you look at it, and again, the problem we're having right now is exactly the last 15 minutes of this. Great oratory on a lot of things that mean nothing to this actual impeachment. I mean, we get down to the bottom line here, and I'm just leave it at that. Let him answer that question. I'll get back to it later, because everything that's been thrown out here is exactly what the problem we've had in the discussion. And this idea of throwing law, in fact, we've disproven the facts. We've talked about the law and broken. They didn't put it in the Constitution. So I can yell on both of them. I can talk about both of them. The problem we have here is this is the very problem we have. And I'll just address one thing before I let it back. Or if you want me to switch right now, I will.
No, I mean, that's
okay.
Fine.
I'll give it to him.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, I'm looking at, the president and the
Yeah, there
if you're watching on YouTube, Doug Collins did that to the video.
Yeah, you can't really see what he's saying. But he couldn't answer, and then finally just landed on pass. Wish we could see that again, because look on his face. He looks like he's a deer in the headlights there. But Doug Collins trying to answer the simple question, like, how would you assess what he did? And they'll talk about process. And they'll talk about lack of testimony from Adam Schiff. We watched all the hearings. Here is Kevin McCarthy. He is the minority leader in the House. And he is inventing a notion of expungement, which is the concept that is, well, the easy way to describe what expungement is that it's made up.
Congressman, 20 years from now, how will history remember what's about to happen?
Well, I think they'll just brush this aside. Maybe a future Congress would even expunge this vote because it is the thinnest, fastest, weakest impeachment in American history. And the sad part, you have
Pause
to go
it.
back
Again,
and look.
I want to remind you, it's the third impeachment in American history. When you start talking about the history of impeachment, the thinnest, fastest impeachment in American history, there's only been two others.
Many people said they would expunge it.
This impeachment in American history. And the sad part, you have to go back and look at this. The Speaker admits for the last 2.5 years she's been trying to impeach this president. Yesterday, we just had a FISA judge go after the FBI for what they went in and spied on this president while he was running for office. And remember where this impeachment comes from. The Intel Committee, Adam Schiff, who actually defended the FISA court, defended what they had done the FBI, had lied about having proof, had lied about meeting the whistleblower. So those Democrats who vote for it today, what will we learn about 6 months from now? Probably from a year from now, they'll have a very short career here in Congress because they would not uphold the rule of law.
All right, first off, the amount of lies in there is really, really stunning. I mean, aside from like the things like Adam Schiff, his name is Schiff, but
Adam Shifty.
The FBI, the judge was admonishing the FBI about its FISA application for someone who was no longer working for the campaign, was months off of the campaign. Someone who was investigated starting in 2013. The IG report found that the investigation was warranted. A judge yesterday in sentencing Rick Gates found that the investigation was warranted. Nancy Pelosi has not been wanting to impeach Donald Trump. It is the one of the most ridiculous things about Nancy Pelosi that she has been so adamant about not impeaching Donald Trump. And the idea that 20 years from now, that the Congress would say, like, it's time to say we're sorry to Donald Trump, I find to be very hard to believe. Although, I mean, it's possible, I guess, if it's an all-Republican Congress. I find that hard to believe, too, but we shall see.
Time to expunge it.
Expunge.
I really like that weird growl thing. I've never caught that before.
It's a little Broadway.
It is very Broadway. I'm a Republican.
Well, if you watch somebody, he does
money.
that when he gets into some of his bigger moments on in the rallies, he gets there. Here is Debbie Lesko. She is a Republican from Arizona. I think she's also on the Intel Committee or the Judicial Committee. I can't remember. And apparently, she has not only no sense of irony, but no sense of shame. Remember Arizona. Here she is, defending Donald Trump, slamming impeachment. And look at what the Democrats are doing in the context of impeachment.
This is the most partisan impeachment in the history of the United States. Not one Republican voted for it in Judiciary Committee, not one Republican voted for it in Rules, and not one Republican, I don't think, is going to vote for it here today. Madam Speaker, this is a sad day. I believe the Democrats are tearing this country apart. They're tearing families apart.
They're tearing families apart. This is
It's like that guy we heard from the other day who was so sad his daughter was mad at him.
Well, I mean, there's a special irony to the idea of accusing Democrats of tearing families apart when you represent a district and a border state, when you probably have a very high level of consciousness that it was actually policy not only to tear families apart, but to basically kidnap the children, put them in other homes forever so they would never see their parents again. Still hundreds of children, if not thousands, still missing.
I think the official number we had, I forget the context, but we were talking about this on Tuesday. I mean, yesterday on the fun half, at least over 1,000.
Yeah.
Well, this is one thing that the far right does. They appropriate language from where it belongs and the people that it belongs to, usually the left, and use it for their own twisted purposes.
The only thing that she points out here, based upon what you say and what she pointed out there, is exactly why Nancy Pelosi should have allowed for impeachment on such issues like tearing families apart. Anything you leave on the table, they will take. Not to mention just sort of the basic humanity and ethics of the whole thing. And it's also, you know, a missed opportunity, again, to use these things as markers for future policy. And that's, you know, to the extent that people have a problem with this impeachment based upon, like, I don't agree with U.S. policy towards Ukraine, or it required, you know, a lot of sort of saccharine jingoism in the course of the impeachment. It's exactly the reason why there should have been more sort of vociferous support for impeachment on other issues. Because again, like, this is a good opportunity when it comes out that they abuse FISA for Carter Page. This is a great opportunity for people who have been advocating for reform of FISA to jump on it. And when they go after the whistleblower, you never hear anything about the woman who blew the whistle on the national security clearances for Jared Kushner. She was just suspended. You use this as an opportunity to build up those policies. You leverage the sort of broad disdain and establishment disdain of Donald Trump to pursue your policy agenda. But it's a weird time, folks. It's a really disturbing time. Hey, since we're going back, let's look back on two key figures in impeachment as it moves from the House to the Senate. One was, I believe, he was definitely a congressman at the time, and I believe he was one of the managers, the House managers. There's certain members of the House who go over to the Senate, and I don't know if 100% what their role is, but they have an opportunity to sort of like speak on and present the cases. But here is Lindsey Graham in 1999 in the House of Representatives talking about the need for impeachment in terms of what it does. It's not just about getting him out of the office. It's not about physically removing him. It is about disinfecting the office.
So the point I'm trying to make is you don't even have to be convicted of a crime to lose your job in this constitutional republic. If this body determines that your conduct as a public official is clearly out of bounds in your role, because impeachment is not about punishment. Impeachment is about cleansing the office. Impeachment is about restoring honor and integrity to the office.
How was that, John?
I'm pretty sure that was the job of the night porter. Just going in with a spray bottle.
Yes, in that instance. But you have Lindsey Graham at that point had a different idea of what impeachment was all about. And here's someone else who has a different impeachment. You'll note that Susan Collins, who is so desperate in any way to justify the vote that she's going to have to take for impeachment, right? Like, she is on a mission to find an offense committed by the Democrats that can justify her vote for impeachment. Because otherwise, and she's still going to have this problem, like, how does she distance herself from the president and justify her vote? And it turned out to be that Chuck Schumer wanted witnesses in the Senate trial. That was the thing that she has decided to hang her hat on, as it were, and claim that the Democrats are sort of out of control. This is not appropriate. You don't go publicly and say you want witnesses at an impeachment trial. You just don't do it. Unless the year is 1999 and you're talking about Bill Clinton and you're Susan Collins from Maine.
I am willing to travel the road wherever it leads, whether it's to the conviction or the acquittal of the president. But in order to do that, I need more evidence. I need witnesses and further evidence to guide me to the right destination, to get to the truth. Yesterday, the president's attorney, David Kendall, referred to the mountain of evidence in this case. And there is indeed a mountain of evidence. But there is also a record that is replete with conflicting statements, with significant gaps, and with unanswered questions. We need to answer those questions in order to fulfill our duty to do impartial justice.
There she is. Can't believe she said that publicly, because apparently that's a really bad thing to do.
Oh, whatever.
My biggest fear about the impeachment going forward is that the impeachments, because they did not pursue other articles, maybe they will, but it doesn't appear that they're going to. It goes to the Senate. All those Republicans like Susan Collins, they vote to protect the president. And then they just hope they're safe from their primary challenges. And remember, like, we are at peak protection of the president right now. Till we get past those primary challenge deadlines, we're at peak protect the president if you're a Republican. After March 15th, I mean, it's very different deadlines in different states. But somewhere around, March 20th, most of those states, the deadline is passed. You're going to see a little bit more distance. And Susan Collins, what she's doing now is praying. There's others who are doing this. Cory Gardner, Joni Ernst, the senator from Arizona whose name I can never remember. Martha McSally.
Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene.
That may help me. Martha McSally. Tom Tillis, the woman who was just appointed Georgia's senator. They are praying that worse stuff comes out about Trump after the impeachment. So maybe there's financial records, whatever it is, and they can say, I disagree with the president on this. I think what the president is doing is wrong. So they can get the impeachment vote. They can get credit for protecting him on impeachment, but they can get away with saying some things, because I may have voted differently if I had known about this. If the House had sent us, done investigations about this, I may have voted differently. That's the way that she did. That's the way that they will do this.
The purple district ones, anyway.
Well, that's what I was just talking about. All those, the Senate.
The rest of them, they're just going to show.
No, of course. But that's what I'm talking about specifically. Cory Gardner, Susan Collins, Joni Ernst, Tom Tillis, Georgia, Arizona. There may be one or two other places, but those are the places where they're very worried about having to vote to protect Donald Trump and basically have that become a burning tire around their necks when they're up for when they're running for re-election. Let's take a quick phone call, shall we? Calling from a 308 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello? Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Oh, this is Kowalski.
Kowalski in Nebraska. What's happening, Kowalski?
Waiting in line at an ethanol plant.
Nice. Of course. Who isn't?
Most people.
Right.
Hey, I was just going to call in one last time this year. Tell you guys it's been a journey this year, finding you. But anyways, I wanted to give a couple recommendations for some YouTube channels since I'm sure your viewers are going to be lacking for content for the next couple weeks. 3 channels, 2 of them that I consider to be pretty decent. One's called Bad Empanada. I think your viewers would really like him. Touches on a lot of social issues and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, we had him on the Intifada recently.
Another one. Oh, good. Nice. Another one is Renegade Cut. I'm sure you guys have heard of him. Does mostly movie reviews and stuff. Probably up your guys' political alley as well. Pretty entertaining. But the one that I would recommend the most is Caspian Report. I'd be surprised if you haven't heard of him, but he does some pretty great work. I highly recommend this channel.
Caspian Report?
I believe he's from Azerbaijan. He speaks English very well, does a lot of just information on geopolitics. I'm pretty sure he was in the equivalent of their country's version of the State Department.
Huh.
He also has like an hour-long series on the Golden Age of Islam, which I think to a Western audience is pretty palatable, and it kind of puts a lot of things in context, especially about like the preservation of Greek philosophy through the Arab world and how they kind of expanded on a lot of the philosophical, like, just discussions of it. Pretty fascinating in my opinion, so I think your viewers would absolutely love it. So,
Kowalski, let me ask you this: what is? Do you have any sense of how impeachment's being received in your parts?
Party lines. I think for the most part, people on the left feel comfortable enough to actually voice their opinion on it, which I didn't think was going to be a thing. It had seemed like the narrative had pretty much just backed a lot of left-leaning people into a corner, or even centrist. But like if you go onto local like news sites on like Facebook and other social media platforms, it's still definitely the Trump crowd is winning, but there is decent amount of pushback. I would be really surprised if this does not energize a lot in Omaha when it comes to the Senate race, because right now I know our Senator Sass is up for re-election, and he has been getting pretty hounded by the Republican farmer base, and the Democrats don't really like him. So I don't know. It could be a pretty interesting year for a lot of people.
All right, so just I want to tease that out a little bit with Sass, like, because he's going to end up having a vote for, I would imagine against impeachment, but that's going to cost him. Is that what you're saying?
It might cost him some centrists and in Omaha. I would say definitely probably not going to, unless his primary challenger can use it to his advantage. I don't think he's actually going to lose to a Democrat. But right now, I know he's getting a challenger from the right, which he's not exactly a centrist, but he's not as far gone, in my opinion, as a lot of people might think. So it could get worse. So I have no doubt he's going to vote for Trump, but it'll just depend.
Interesting. All right. Well, Kowalski, you have a great holiday, and we'll talk to you in the new year.
All right, you guys have a good one, and Merry Christmas from real America.
Damn it. All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you from fake America.
Local news comment sections are an important location for political struggle out there.
This just
Minion
breaking.
Death Cult has real up on that.
A judge threw out state charges against Paul Manafort. today. This was the Manhattan District Attorney was bringing charges against Manafort involving mortgage fraud and more than a dozen other state felonies. The Justice Maxwell Wiley of the state Supreme Court in Manhattan dismissed the indictment, saying the charges violate the legal principle of double jeopardy, which holds that a defendant may not be tried twice for the same conduct. So Manafort is in prison in federal prison. The idea was that they wanted to bring other charges against him in state prison, in state law, so that Donald Trump could not pardon him. It was a 16-count indictment, and it grew out of an investigation from 2017 when Manhattan prosecutors began examining loans that Mr. Manafort received from two banks. Manafort's lawyers had argued that state charges should be dismissed because they involved some of the same allegations that had been made in the federal cases, and that there was the defense lawyer said that the overlap was extensive, and that's double jeopardy means you cannot be tried twice, both in federal and state court, on the same crimes, essentially. To me, that sounds like Cy Vance screwed up and did some pretty bad lawyering. Let's take one more phone call before we go into the fun half. Calling from a 314 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up? It's Jason.
Jason, where are you calling from?
Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. What's on your mind, Jason?
I just want to draw your attention to a documentary I recently saw that might be of interest to some of our libertarian friends listening.
Okay.
It's about a group of people that they kind of manage their own natural resources. They've got access to gasoline and water. Can't remember the title of it. It's got Charlize Theron in it, Tom Hardy. They got lots of vehicles. They customize their cars really well.
It's good. It's good. I don't know if that's a documentary, but appreciate the call. Is that the updated?
Yeah, no. Here it is. I got it. It's Mad Max Fury Road.
Right. Okay.
We understood the joke and where it was going.
Thank you.
That was why we politely acknowledged it
and decided
and moved forward
to move on.
B+ for effort. A solid gentleman B for content.
We're going to take a quick break, head into the fun half of the program. Folks, just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you support this program. You keep it alive. You're the reason why we can still do this. JoinTheMajorityReport.com. You'll get the show, the free show, free of ads, and you'll get extra content virtually every single day. I don't know, there may be a day or two here or there, but that's about it. And as we go in to, we are now in our 10th year. This is our 10th year. It's going to be our 10-year anniversary. Yeah, you call this the 10th year. So this is our 10th year. 10-year anniversary is going to fall on the election day, 2020. That was not.
Wow.
What are the chances of that?
Bernie better win.
No kidding. I think he's surging. We're going to talk about the race in the fun half. But you can support the show by going to jointhemajorityreport.com and help us with our trying to grow and maybe launch new shows and all sorts of stuff like that. So jointhemajorityreport.com. Also, don't forget justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. The AM Quickie, it's live. Check it out. I mean, it's not literally live. It is alive. amquickie.com. Also, reminder, Hunt to Killer is the subscription game that thrusts you and your friends and family into an ongoing murder mystery investigation. With every delivery, you sift through piles of documents, you got evidence, you got audio recordings, you got case files, you eliminate suspects. In my instance, I have a bulletin board, and I got the red string. I did the whole deal. Make it fun for Mile and I.
Believe that.
Yeah, why not? Right now, just for our listeners, you can go to huntakiller.com, use the promo code majority. You get 20% off your first box. And they have gift cards, so you can use it for your holiday shopping. Not to mention, they're throwing in exclusive bundles for the holiday season. So make sure you use the promo code majority at huntakiller.com for a 20% discount to show your support for the show. Huntakiller.com, promo code majority. Today is Wednesday. Last night was Tuesday.
Great show on TMBS. As always, Joshua Kahn Russell, great guest. Check out everything, including show schedule and live performance schedule. Next show, February 7th at the Bell House. Get your tickets at tmbs.fm. Also, the blurb page on my upcoming book for Zero Books. And next week, slight schedule change because we're going off. We're going to be doing a Monday show instead of a Tuesday show. And Richard Wolff is going to be in studio helping us wrap up the year.
Jamie.
This week on the Antifada, Andy and Sean are joined by writer, translator, and historian of the revolutionary left, Mitch Abador, to talk about the life, legacy, and relevance of the Bolsheviks' pet anarchist, Victor Serge. An illegalist anarchist turned anarcho-syndicalist turned Bolshevik turned left oppositionist before being completely black-pilled, Serge is a rare example of a revolutionary who jumped from tendency to tendency while still maintaining his principles. Abador and Richard Greenman recently translated Serge's 1936 to 1947 notebooks, written mostly while living in exile in Mexico and watching the dream of proletarian revolution unravel. Check it out, folks. Patreon.com/theantifada. Oh, also we have merch for all your holiday gifting needs.
Matt?
Literary hangover coming up. This Saturday is The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, the second most published work in English behind the Bible. And it's ostensibly an allegory about how to become a Christian and get into the celestial city or heaven. But it really, I think you can read it as a early fiction that goes on sort of ideology versus politics at a time of revolution in England, and how that gets synthesized into ideas.
It's not Harry Potter?
No, Harry Potter's way behind.
But that was number 2.
Pilgrim's Progress, I call it. It's sort of like what Lord of the Rings was for culture for like 200 years, following 1670s.
You remember when Donald Trump was at a rally and he was just like, "Art of the Deal, second best book ever," and he's just like, "Does everybody know what the first best book is?" And somebody's like, "Bible," and he's like, "That's right, the Bible.
The Bible's number 1."
2 Corinthians.
See you in the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous, you're a little bit upset, you're riled up.
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude. You want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
That's a good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457. 2, 38, 56, 27. 1/2. 5 8s. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy.
Dance, dance, dance.
Rand Paul.
I had my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there.
take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agreed.
No.
Death to America.
You.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way! Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook. Throw our hands up.
Ooh.
Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey! Shut up!
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.